Ms. Miller from Illinois.
Thank you, Chairman. Ms. McCutcheon, there is a serious shortage of home care services in this country, thanks largely to the Obama administration's 2013 home care regulation, which removed the long-standing Fair Labor Standards Act exemption for home care and companion care. Department of Labor estimated that the cost of home care services increased $1.6 billion during the 5 years after the rule went into effect. How can the FLSA work better for those who require home health care services?
Well, first of all, you could reintroduce and enact the bill that would restore the companionship service exemption to its original form back when I was wage and hour administrator in the Bush administration. This is an incredible, important issue to me. As we age, as more people retire, it is much better for people to be cared for in their home than to be institutionalized. But it's become so expensive that most working families cannot afford it if they have to pay overtime in addition to wages that are between $10 and $15 an hour for most home care workers. In addition, another problem is that the attack on independent contractors has really hurt the home care industry, particularly, for example, in Florida, where most home care workers are independent contractors, but the Department of Labor has been attacking their status. So everything that has been happening in the last 4 years has just been increasing the cost, and I'm afraid that working families seeking home care will have to go to an underground economy, hire people that are not employed by an agency that does that screens and screens them for past felonies, that provides insurance, and makes sure that their home care worker is safe in the homes of these families.
Thank you for shedding light on that. Ms. McCutcheon, also, as you note in your written testimony, the Fair Labor Standards Act is it's a nearly 87-year-old statute that desperately needs more clarity and simplicity. Can you elaborate on the differences between the ABC test and the common law standard as stated in the Modern Worker Empowerment Act for determining whether a worker is an employee or an independent contractor?
Yes, I'll answer that for both the ABC test and the current regulations of the Department of Labor. There is the proposed legislation is very simple. Who controls the work of the employee? If it's the worker, then the worker is an independent contractor. If it's an organization, then they're the employer. The ABC test is complicated. Nobody understands it. And even in California, where it was enacted into statute, there are over 50 exceptions and exemptions to it. The same thing with DOL's regulations. There's a last section that says, oh, and we'll consider any other factor that we find relevant, which makes it impossible from the beginning for people to understand whether they're independent contractors or whether they're employees, and for small businesses to understand that too. And if they don't understand, if they don't know the rules, then how can we expect them to get it right? We shouldn't call it wage theft. We should call it good people trying to follow the law, but they need to be told what the law is clearly and simply.
Well, one thing the government does well is complicate things, and we're excited to be in the majority now because we want to deregulate and make things work better. Mr. Wolfson, survey after survey shows that independent contractors prefer their current work arrangement to being an employee. The Biden administration's attempts to restrict independent contracting were an affront to independent contractors who made their preference clear. What can Congress and the Trump administration do to support and protect the independent workforce?
So I think there's three things that the legislature could look at. One is, as Ms. McCutcheon just mentioned, the Modern Worker Empowerment Act, which goes back to a standard of who's in control of the business and making that the determining factor. The second, as I alluded to in my oral testimony, is an attempt to allow certain workers to just opt into independent contractor status. There were some bills in prior legislatures that would allow that to happen, where a worker could simply opt in and say, I am in fact an independent worker, I understand the risks and benefits of that, and I'm going to do that and take that to the worker. The third thing is this Modern Worker Security Act, which would allow independent workers who, to your point, prefer this arrangement. Many of them may be married to someone who receives other benefits, but maybe they receive a health savings account with their spouse's employment, and they would like the business that they work with. Maybe they're in Pennsylvania and they work for DoorDash, and they'd like DoorDash to put some dollars into their health savings account. And that would allow them to do that without DoorDash having to count that person as an employee, and that protects the worker and the business and allows that transaction to happen.
Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Cesar from Texas.